everybody, it's your pal JR again, and welcome to Assume I'm an Idiot, the show where we take complicated topics and blend them all up into a delicious pudding safe for everyone to swallow. I am the idiot.
What an idiot!
And on this podcast, we'll be exploring everything from silly fun facts that everyone should know to bigger, more complicated stuff like science, finance, education, infrastructure, and so much more. Broken down without corporate talk or industry speak, so even a steaming lump of dumbness like me can understand. So kick off your shoes, pull off your socks, and pull your minds way up high, high, high as we get to the core of how things work without all the seeds to choke on. Today's topic is something that I honestly thought was made up by jobless psych majors about 10 years ago. It can be an invaluable tool in the right hands and a giant waste of time and money in the wrong ones. But first, it's time for Random Stuff You Should Know.
Random stuff you should know.
From the world of business.
Work. Sell. They're all selling and buying.
The average person will spend roughly 90,000 hours of their life at work. 90,000 hours. Think about that. If you work 40 hours a week for about 45 years, that's basically what you're signing up for. That's more than most of us spend with our spouses. It's more time than we spend with our kids after they grow up. And it's certainly more time than I spend reading books. Also from the world of business,
You better work.
and kind of psychology, researchers have consistently found that people who feel a sense of purpose in their work generally report higher overall life satisfaction than people who don't. Notice they didn't say higher salary, higher purpose. Now, money helps. Let's not pretend that rent can be paid with positive affirmations. But it turns out that liking what you do matters a lot more than most people realize. That said, as I've mentioned many times on the podcast, whoever wrote the line, "Do what you love and the money will come," definitely had a trust fund. Okay, on to the main topic. Today we're talking about something that's always kind of bugged me, and I'll explain why in a minute. But suffice it to say, it's really easy to feel like it's a kind of grift being perpetrated on all of us. I'm talking about career coaches, what they are, who hires one. Isn't that just another name for a life coach? What do they actually do? And maybe more importantly, what do they not do? I have to admit something. Until recently, I honestly thought a career coach was someone who looked at your resume, fixed a few spelling mistakes, and told you to smile more during interviews, then charged you $400. Turns out, that's kind of like saying an architect is someone who picks paint colors. It's technically connected, but you've missed about 95% of the job, at least for legitimate career coaches. And in my opinion, not all of them are. There's a huge difference between qualified career coaches and people who just think they have the experience to do it. And in a few minutes, I'm going to be joined by an actual highly trained, highly qualified, and highly regarded expert on the matter to help distinguish the difference. Let me start with what prompted this episode in the first place. And it's a long story that I'll try to condense, but settle in. About a year ago, maybe a little more, a friend of mine was in a career crossroads. She'd been let go from a job that she'd held for about 6 years due to downsizing, a job that she liked and one that was perfectly aligned with her career trajectory, meaning it was a step up in title and responsibility from the job she had before it, which was a step up from the job she had before that, et cetera, et cetera. So she had been on a very linear climb for the last 2 decades. After the layoff, she was weighing her options and what to do next. The job market was starting to shrink, she was a little older, and the interviews just weren't coming. Then she heard about an organization that provided group career coaching, whose name I'll leave out of this, wherein you pay an upfront fee and attend classes for 12 months where you connect with other people in the same situation and get coached in ways to expand your network, find opportunities, etc., etc. When she told me about it, my first question to her was, do they actually help you find a job or get you connected with recruiters? Because honestly, my own experience with career coaches was actually with something called Resumé Doctors, which is a vastly different type of consultation. She said, no, that's not what they do. But at the same time, couldn't easily explain what they do, which, as an aside, is usually a huge red flag for me. If someone can't describe what they actually do for a living in under 3 sentences, chances are they're bullshitting you, or they're bullshitting themselves. She said they help you with techniques for broadening your reach and connect you with other people so you can help each other, and so on. I'm paraphrasing. Anyway, the reason I asked is because the program she was signing up for cost $3,000 and required 3 days a week of her time and homework and a bunch of extracurricular activities outside program hours. So a person who was already low on funds from being unemployed and without a lot of free hours due to full-time job hunting now had essentially another full-time job that she was paying for. But I like to support my friends in their endeavors, so the best I could do was smile and say, "Go get 'em, champ." Every once in a while I would check in with her on how it was going. Usually I got, "It's going okay. I made some really great contacts. I'm posting 3 days a week on LinkedIn. I'm doing this. I'm doing that." But the thing that was never mentioned was whether or not she was getting any job leads based on her freshly gained knowledge from this organization. So I started asking what kinds of exercises or advice or tips or whatever you want to call it she was getting from this group. And the answer knocked me back on my heels, because what she described was nothing more than what you could find anywhere online with a simple keyword search for free. There was no special insight, no inside knowledge of industry, no bona fide tips on how to get through to recruiters, none of that. Just a few very minor and very obvious resume tips and a formulaic plan of posting on social media for visibility. And in terms of making contacts, she was making contacts with people within the program who were all unemployed people just like her. So really it was just communal commiserating with people that really didn't have the time to help each other because they were busy trying to help themselves. So in my opinion, she got absolutely nothing out of this but homework and more debt. And as it turns out, the place eventually went out of business, mostly because no one else was getting anything out of it either, but also because the person who ran it had no qualifications whatsoever to provide any kind of educated counseling. He was an entrepreneur with no education in psychology or human behavior and really only held 2 to 3 mid-level jobs prior to starting this class. I'm using that in quotation marks. So in general, if something smells fishy, trust your gut and run away and take your friends and family with you. However, my friend's experience, negative as it was, started me questioning what a career coach actually does versus, say, a headhunter, which technically doesn't exist anymore. For those that don't know, in years past, you could connect with a person called a headhunter who would actually search for jobs for you with no upfront fee. They had connections with recruiters in various industries, and they had the inside scoop when positions became available. And they only made money by taking a percentage of what your salary would be. Not from you, but from the company that hired you, which means they fought for the highest salary possible to get the biggest fee they could. You paid nothing, the hiring company didn't waste time with filtering resumes and going through 20 interviews, and the headhunter fought for top dollar. If there was ever such thing as a true win-win, this was it. I'm so sad it's really not around anymore. Anywho, as I said, maybe I really didn't know what a career coach actually does, so I started asking my friends what they thought a career coach actually does. The answers were all over the place. They help you find a job. They write resumes. They help college graduates get their first job. They're basically recruiters. One friend actually said, think of them as LinkedIn, but with a pulse, which because I hate LinkedIn so much would mean I'd hate this person like poison. Because those answers were all over the map, I decided to really dig in and research the topic. And to my surprise, none of what my informal friends poll discovered was true. First and foremost, what is a career coach or a career counselor? Let's start with a definition. On the most basic level, a career coach or counselor is someone who helps people make decisions about their careers. That sounds incredibly obvious until you realize how many decisions that actually includes. Should I change industries? Should I ask for a promotion? Am I being underpaid? Why do I keep getting interviews but never offers? Should I leave my stable job and start a business? Should I go back to school? Should I become a llama farmer? That sounds silly, but I'm absolutely certain somebody out there somewhere has hired a career coach to discuss becoming a llama farmer. Career coaches, as it turns out, do not technically help you find a job. They help people identify strengths, improve interviewing, build confidence, transition careers, and a lot more that our extremely qualified guest today will help spell out in just a few minutes. But in general, they help people work through what they actually want to do with the next 20 years of their life, which is no small thing. Because if we're spending 90,000 hours working, as I mentioned in my random stuff, picking the wrong career is kind of like accidentally buying the world's most expensive pair of uncomfortable shoes and walking 90,000 miles in them. Now, there was one thing that I really did want to get to the bottom of, and something that got me more and more aggravated the deeper I dove into it. As I've said here and in many episodes, I detest LinkedIn. I don't need to go into all the reasons here, but on the unfortunate occasion when I do need to go there, I find 200 messages waiting for me from people essentially trying to get me to hire them or buy something. There's never anyone on there offering me a big project or a bag of money. Note to everyone out there on LinkedIn, please, for the love of all things holy, if I connect with you, Please, please wait at least 24 hours before pouncing on me and pimping your service. Treat people exactly as you would or should if you met them at a non-business party. But I digress. The point is, a solid 50% of the solicitations I get on there are from people calling themselves career coaches. There are hundreds, thousands of them on LinkedIn. Everyone is suddenly a career coach, something, as I said, I'd never heard of prior to 2015-ish, which made me go further and get some actual numbers. I wanted to dive deeper and see how many career coaches there really are out there. This surprised me, because normally my sources for researching job and industry stats pops up an immediate answer. But in this case, there isn't one, because there isn't one giant government database where every career coach registers. Nobody gets a career coach license from Washington, D.C. Instead, it's a profession made up of independent coaches, consultants, former HR executives, recruiters, psychologists, leadership consultants, and certified coaching professionals. Professional organizations like the International Coaching Federation, the ICF, have over 60,000 credentialed coaches worldwide. But those include life coaches, executive coaches, leadership coaches, and career coaches. Career coaching is one specialty among many. So the honest answer is nobody knows exactly how many career coaches there are. And this is where things get a little freaky, because the next thing I researched is what qualifications or training are needed to become a career coach.
Survey said.
None. Zip. Zilch. You don't legally need a license to call yourself a career coach. Anybody could wake up tomorrow, print business cards, and suddenly become Dave's Elite Career Coaching. That doesn't necessarily mean Dave knows what he's doing. He just decided to be a career coach. Many of the best career coaches pursue certifications through organizations like the International Coaching Federation. Others have decades of experience or degrees in human resources, executive recruiting, leadership development, psychology, or have been high-level business executives and hiring managers throughout their career. But an alarming percentage, estimated at nearly 31% of all career coaches, have no formal training, no license, no degree, and in my opinion, no business calling themselves one. They either wanted to try something new on a whim, or they realized it was easier to make money by pretending they have some great insight. But hold on, because there's another discipline that falls into this category, and I'm talking about resume writers. This is something I'm sad to say I've had experience with. I always thought a career coach and a resume writer, or what people sometimes call a resume doctor, were basically the same thing. Nope, not even close. Now, before I get myself into trouble, there are some phenomenal qualified resume writers out there. Former recruiters, former HR executives, people who've hired thousands of employees over the decades. Those folks know exactly what hiring managers are looking for. Here's the problem. When you dig into what kind of licensing or certification is required to be a resume writer or doctor, and you may have guessed it,
Survey said.
zero. There is absolutely no universal licensing or certification required to call yourself a resume expert. Just like Dave, tomorrow morning I could wake up, make a website that says JR's Resume Rescue, charge $300 a pop, and suddenly I'm an expert. Would I be? Absolutely not. I've hired plenty of people over the years, but that doesn't automatically make me qualified to advise someone on navigating today's hiring landscape. Many, not all, but many resume doctors have no expertise whatsoever. The bulk of resume services focus almost exclusively on formatting. Let's move your education up here. Let's use a different font. Let's make this bullet point sound more exciting. All well and good, but if they don't actually understand how companies recruit, how applicant tracking systems, ATSs, those computer programs that scan resumes before a human eye even sees them, they don't understand how those things work, how hiring managers think, or what employers are really trying to discover during an interview, then their expert advice, again in quotation marks, is not worth the resume paper it's printed on. I say that I've had experience with it because years ago, when I was looking for my next full-time gig, I hired a resume doctor to help improve my chances of getting through this pesky, almost evil ATS system. Their advice essentially amounted to, move this here, make this font larger, create it in Microsoft Word instead of a design program, and Bob's your uncle. That'll be $300, please. After months with no results, I went to a different resume doctor who basically undid whatever the first one told me to do, more or less bringing my resume back to exactly where I started, and, of course, costing me another $300. So in the end, I was $600 leaner with no appreciable difference in either my resume or its visibility to recruiters. This is only my opinion, but I sincerely believe resume experts are anything but. It's a scam perpetrated on desperate people at their most susceptible. Because how ATS systems scan resumes and what recruiters or hiring managers are looking for changes by the day. There's simply no way to stay ahead of it. So save your money. You have as much chance of busting through by watching free resume advice on YouTube. Now, of course your resume matters, but so does your interview style, your networking, your confidence, your career direction. Sometimes your resume isn't the problem at all. Sometimes you're applying for the wrong jobs. Sometimes you're underselling yourself. And sometimes you're trying to become something that you don't even want to be. Which brings me back to career coaches, because all evidence suggests a career coach can help you hone all the skills necessary to better understand who you are, where you fall short, what your strengths are, and how to put it all together to make the right career decisions. But how do you know if you found the right one? What qualifications or certifications should I be looking for? Why might you need one? And if they're not a job hunting service, what the heck do they actually do for you? And lastly, are some of them just motivational speakers with fancy business cards? Well, have I got news for all of you. Luckily, you don't need to rely on my puny brain to suss all these answers out, because joining me is someone who spent years expertly helping people navigate all of this. She's a rare species who combines actual business experience with clinical mental health training. She holds a master's degree, in mental health counseling, a BA in English, too. So I'm expecting her to be very articulate and also correct all my bad grammar. She's fully licensed to practice as a professional counselor. And before all that, she spent years as a top-level marketing executive at brands like Leo Burnett and the Discovery Channel, where I had the incredible honor to work with her. And if that doesn't convince you she's qualified to talk about this, she's a member of both the American Psychological Association and the National Career Development Association. A big fat idiot welcome to a former colleague, a dear friend, and easily one of the smartest people I've met in my lifetime, the insanely awesome Julie Willis.
Well, JR, that was a really kind introduction. And the funny thing is, I just consider myself a fellow idiot.
Oh, how's that?
I do.
We're going to see if that holds true throughout this interview. So I'm counting on you to be the smart one here. And because, my brain doesn't work like other people's.
I just love to learn new things. And I think that's why I've made so many changes in my life. And that starts with some humility that says, I just don't understand this. So I'm going to dig in deeper and try to figure it out.
I love that point of view. It's so great to have you. We have been friends for, if you can believe it, 22 years, something along those lines that we've known each other.
But who's counting? Who's counting?
Right. How about it? I've got grays on my beard and missing hairs on the top to prove it. But I'm going to treat you like any other guest, meaning if you start to get professorial, you start to use big fancy industry terms, you're going to get one of these. And that means slow your roll, go back, and please re-explain it for an idiot like me, okay?
Bring it.
Okay, got it. So you have your own business in Austin, a career counseling business, not career coaching, career counseling. Am I correct in that?
Correct.
Okay. Tell us about that, please.
So my business is called Good to Go. And I am in private practice in Austin, Texas. That means I run my own business. And if you've ever seen any kind of therapist in private practice, same deal. Mm-hmm. I named my business Good to Go for a particular reason. One is metaphoric, right? Like my job is to help someone get up and running.
Mm-hmm.
My practice is very goal-oriented. I don't want to keep you here forever talking about every last thing.
Sure.
You want to get up on your feet. I want you to get up on your feet. That's the entire focus of the practice.
Yep.
I also did it for a literal reason. When I was in graduate school, it was pre-COVID. Commercial real estate in Austin was through the roof. It was a real problem for therapists to maintain the overhead of an office.
Sure.
And this is food truck central here in Austin. So I literally had the idea of a therapy truck. I was going to outfit a Sprinter van or I don't know what.
How cool is that?
I call myself Good to Go, a driver app. Yeah. Well, so then, flash forward, COVID wiped out commercial real estate. Now office space is dirt cheap. It's fast and easy. I landed in a terrific spot that I'd be a fool to trade in on. But it is still my long-term goal to drive a truck around. I have a picture of myself at 85 with my blue hair and my dentures driving a little therapy truck around the country.
I love
so
it.
Stay tuned. It's coming.
Can you put one of those signs out like Lucy from Peanuts, like free advice or advice 5 cents?
Yeah. That's literally the concept. So wait for it. It's my next gen career ambition.
I've always wanted one of those Sprinter vans. I don't know why. I have no purpose for it other than maybe I can just park and nap in the back if I want to. whenever nap time hits. Yeah, I've always wanted one of those things. Talk to me, please, about the kind of training you went through to get you here and why you're called a counselor versus a coach.
Sure. So I consider myself a licensed professional counselor who specializes in career counseling.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the important questions that you were raising in your intro is like, what the heck is that? What is a coach? How are they credentialed?
Yeah.
So to kind of lay a baseline foundational understanding of what a counselor is versus a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And if you see the letters MALPC
Okay.
after somebody's name,
It's
that
fancy
means
already,
they are
yeah.
a licensed. Yeah, that means they're a licensed professional counselor. That means they have a master's in counseling.
Okay.
That master's includes a 300-hour practicum in whatever specialization they've chosen.
What the heck is a practicum? A practicum?
A practicum means, unlike a classroom class, you are working on site in a clinical setting.
Okay, got it.
Ideally in the specialization you're going to pursue. So I worked at the Texas State University Career Counseling Office,
Okay.
where I worked with alumni, graduate students, and students figuring out what they wanted to do with their lives. And so I did 300 hours as part of my master's, actually working with people in my chosen field.
Thank you for that explanation.
Once an LPC graduates, they have to pass what's called the NCE exam, a national counseling exam, and in Texas, a state jurisprudence exam. That's largely true in most states.
Okay.
Then, just for funsies,
Sure.
you have to do 3,000 hours of postgraduate supervised hours.
3,000 hours?
3,000 hours. You're not allowed to go faster than 18 months. It takes most people about 3 years. If you are on the slow train, maybe 5.
Okay.
So you are not flying the plane alone. You're working under someone. In my case, it was a woman named Dr. Ellen Melton, who's amazing. So you've got live feedback and coaching of your own as you're starting out in clinical practice. So if there are things you don't know, there's always someone to ask. Post licensure, we are all beholden to maintain our licenses through continuing education requirements.
Okay.
So there's like a great deal of discipline and certification to become a career counselor.
Okay.
When I decided to step off on this path, there were really 2 choices available to me because I cared a lot about rigorous training. So that was one path, and it was clearly the path that I chose.
Mm-hmm.
Another path people can take is to get certified through the National Career Development Association.
Okay.
And I think even if you're a consumer looking for a career counselor, looking at their site and understanding their levels of certification can tell you a lot about the kind of counselor you might be hiring.
Sure.
How deep is their training? How many years of experience? What hurdles did they have to pass to get the certification in the first place? But if you want assurance that someone has had really rigorous training in this space, my first recommendation would be to look for NCDA certifications or an LPC.
Yeah, we're going to get to all of that in terms of what qualifications. We're going to dig deeper into that for sure. Because as I mentioned in my intro, something like 30% of people that are claiming to be career coaches, career counselors, I know there's a difference there, you just said so, have any qualifications whatsoever. So we're going to talk about that a little bit deeper, but you heard my intro. I'm bracing myself as usual. Please, madam, tell me everything I got wrong.
Well, this is less of an error than an omission. So I'm going to pick on your choice of word.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I'd want to take a PDF of your intro and run it through ChatGPT and make sure that I'm right. But
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I never heard the word counselor. I only heard the word coach.
Okay. All right.
And I think that's the first line of demarcation.
Okay. Yes, you just explained that. There is a difference. And is there even such thing as a career coach?
There is such a thing as a career coach.
Okay.
But the first line I would draw is that it's a level of credentialing.
Okay.
So a licensed professional counselor or a nationally certified career coach is going to have clear, standardized rules that they have to follow to earn that credential in the first place. And so one of the big gists I took away from your intro was just how blind it can feel as a consumer of this kind of product to understand what you're buying. And what's good about an LPC or an NCDA certified coach, or I'm sorry, I just said it myself, counselor, is that it's very transparent how they're trained, what they're trained to do, what you're actually buying if you choose to engage with someone.
Okay. So it seems like, I mean, before we get even deeper, it seems like anybody, when I go on to LinkedIn, the place I hate the most in the whole wide world, and they call themselves career coaches. All right. So maybe they're bypassing the qualifications by calling themselves a career coach, but it seems like anybody can call themselves a career counselor or a career coach, whether they have the certification or the qualifications or not. I mean, I can call myself an astronaut, but NASA's not going to return my phone calls. In terms of this kind of thing, as a consumer, like you just said, how do I know that this person isn't just you wake up one morning and become a career coach?
Yeah, that's super true. And I agree with you. I think there are a lot of people in this space who are not well qualified, who it's not too hard to call yourself a coach, right? And I should also caveat and just say, I know that a lot of people get certified through IFC, which I need to raise my hand and say I don't know enough about, so I don't feel qualified.
What does
to speak on
IFC
that or
stand for?
not. I think it's the International Coaching Federation. Maybe it's ICF.
ICF, okay.
So I know that people get coaching skills that way. How rigorous they are, I've never looked at any of their training programs for myself. So
Yeah.
I don't feel qualified to comment on that, but I know that's another path people take.
Sure.
What I would say is that I think it boils down to the same things. Someone should be able to explain their training, their process, and their credentials.
Mm-hmm.
They should be able to offer reviews or referrals, proof that they have had a track record of success in their space.
Mm-hmm.
They should be able to give some examples. So
Yeah.
to be clear, and this is another distinction we haven't gotten into, is sort of the process a career coach or counselor may follow, what the difference is.
Yeah.
I actually refer quite a bit to coaches when I get a call from a potential client who I realize really doesn't need counseling. They need something more tactical. And that's generally not what I do. I don't hire myself out for just that piece.
Okay.
I'll do it with it. I'll do end to end with someone, but I won't come in just at that stage.
Mm-hmm.
I work with a couple really qualified, excellent coaches who did independently hang a shingle based on their own particular credentials. So for
Now
instance,
you're calling them coaches. Are they coaches or counselors?
they are coaches.
Okay.
They don't hold any kind of degree or qualification
Gotcha.
to earn the title counselor. But for instance, one of them who I work with, and I won't give her name here because I haven't asked, some people don't like to be promoted if their practice
Especially
is
on this
less
show,
than they
yeah.
want us, with your millions of followers, which are coming. They're coming, but they might not want their phone to ring. But in this example, she has a long career as a recruiter.
Okay.
So she has sat on like the resume review and placement side. She has served both job applicants and hiring managers. She understands the space so well and so deeply that she's incredibly qualified to help someone write an effective resume and structure a really effective job search. And I don't think she needs the LPC, the MA, the NCDA certification to bear out her skills in that space.
Right. So how do you explain to someone that career counselors do not find you jobs? Because I think the bulk of people think, okay, I'm on the job hunt. I can't find a gig. And they think of them almost like headhunters or some kind of recruitment thing. I mean, at least the informal poll that I did with my friends, and my friends are, about a little bit smarter than me, but not much. But the informal poll that I did, basically, some of the answers in there were, yeah, they help you find a job, which is not true at all, technically. I mean, or am I wrong in the way I'm describing that?
I'm going to answer your question by sort of not answering your question.
Whoa.
Or I'm going to give you a different answer, and I'd come back at that question.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let me back up a step and sort of explain the process a career counselor or some coaches might follow.
Mm-hmm.
I think about what I do in three pieces,
Okay.
broadly. So the first piece is the big, wide open kind of strategic space. Someone is coming to you because they have a larger existential problem. I'm in a job and I hate it. I'm in a field and I hate it. I don't know what I want to do with my life. There's a giant mess finding piece that, and it's part of why I went back and got a broad-based mental health degree.
Mm-hmm.
Because that problem can be influenced by all kinds of things. Maybe you're depressed. Maybe there's another diagnosis at play, but there's something that's really clouding the picture.
Okay,
And
okay.
so the first job is to understand what's going on.
Mhm.
Once you've determined a set of potential paths for someone, there's a middle stage that to me is all about investigating potential options.
Mm-hmm.
The easy example to give would be someone just coming out of college who really doesn't understand the options available to them. And the work we do in the first phase might determine, let's call it 5 potential career paths. Maybe I'm thinking about being an obstetrician, or I'm thinking about getting a social work degree, or whatever paths we've identified.
Right.
That middle space is about research, understanding the field, doing some primary and secondary research to understand how much money would I make, how secure and stable, what's the forecast, et cetera, et cetera. It might also include informational interviewing, talking to people in those jobs to really get a better grip on what they do. Are they happy? What's it really like? From there, you narrow further, pick your target, and then you're into the space of a real job coach.
Okay.
Now we're writing the resume. Now we're writing LinkedIn. Now we're starting to execute the job search because we've put our ladder on the right wall. We know what it is we're aiming at.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
So that brings me to a question of what's always struck me funny that we ask, an 18-year-old to decide what they want to do for the next 45 years. Okay. So
Yep.
At 18, I couldn't decide what I wanted on my pizza. And yet we're asking these people how they want to spend their career. What are you majoring in? I don't know. Like, why should I know? And even my kids going to college, they both have changed their major halfway through.
Yep.
So it's ridiculous for us to say, what do you want to do with your career from here on out? How many of your clients, or how much experience do you have with that younger generation? We had suggested to my son, maybe you should get a career counselor. He looked at us like we were speaking Klingon. He's like, what? Why? What's going on? So how many people or how many clients do you have? And I'm calling them clients. It's not patients. It's not patients, right? It's clients. I don't really.
It's clients.
Okay.
Clients.
So how
Yep.
many clients do you have in that age group that are looking to long-term, have the foresight to look long-term at what's going on in their life?
You know what's funny? The process isn't really any different whether you're dealing with a college student or a mid-career professional. You still start with the same kind of exploratory process.
Okay.
The difference is that someone with more experience just knows a little bit more about themselves and their work life.
Sometimes.
They've had some, they've tried enough to know what they don't like.
Yeah.
They've tried enough to maybe, and they have more friends in professional spaces. Like, they just have more lived experience that they can bring to bear. But the process is largely the same. Almost every career counselor will start with a set of assessments.
Sure.
This is a place where I can get super geeky, so let me know how deep you want me to go. But
Go deep.
Go deep. Wow.
Go deep. Real deep. Go deep.
okay, I give 4 assessments, and generally most counselors will give some version of the same things.
Okay.
The Myers-Briggs, which is a personality assessment.
Okay. Why
It's-
is that important?
Because the Myers-Briggs tells you a lot about someone's orientation toward the world, how they like to make decisions, how they like to work with other people. So I think of that as just a good litmus test on personality fit,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Sure.
The second is something called the Strong Interest Inventory, which I can really geek out on. I could do a whole podcast around the Strong Interest Inventory.
Okay.
The Strong Interest Inventory has been around for almost a century. And what it measures is, just like the Myers-Briggs, it gives a code.
Okay.
So when you answer the questionnaire, you get a code back. And what it basically tells you is people who share your interest code report a high degree of career satisfaction in the following fields and jobs.
Okay.
It doesn't give you an answer, but it does give you a zip code.
Oh,
And what that can do, especially for college kids, it might say like, okay, someone who loves math and ceramics and, I don't know, playing golf on the weekends. Like, you match to people like this.
mhm.
And they do the following things, and they're pretty happy in them. And that usually yields a list of fields and jobs that you can bet an 18-year-old has never even heard of.
Sure.
Like, what the heck is that? Now we've got a roadmap. Now it's like, well, let's go find out about these professions. And a mid-career professional might have the same experience, or it might do a really good job of explaining like, wow, I'm a lawyer and there are no lawyers in my interest set.
Yeah.
People like me are very unhappy. And now I have some reason why.
Okay.
Right?
Gotcha.
I give a skills assessment, which again, it's not an aptitude test. I'm not evaluating your skills, you're self-reporting them, but a sense of what you think you're good at, what you maybe aren't as good at, but would like to be. And then the last is a values assessment. What's important to you? What are you looking for in a workplace or a culture?
Huh.
And the way that I think about this is that it's each side is a Rubik's Cube. These are aids to judgment. They don't tell you where you're going to go, but it helps us kind of design a rubric for a person that says, for me to be happy in a job, I need a certain mix of the following things. I'm going to be happiest in this kind of environment, doing these kinds of things, aimed at these kinds of outcomes. Now you have some sense of what you're looking for.
How often when you're doing that evaluation of what people think they're good at or believe they're good at, how often do you find that it's not actually true, or that it's the opposite, or maybe you're not so good at that?
That's a great question.
I know. Thank you. I'm going to give myself
Well, it's a stumper in that, again, I'm not evaluating that. I'm
Okay.
not testing them. I'm not in the workplace. I'm taking for granted a level of self-awareness and honesty at some level.
But
But I also
throughout your
think
counseling, there's got to be a point where you're like, remember when you said this is something you think you're good at, or this is something you excel at? I mean, is there ever a point? It might not be, but I'm saying, is there ever a point where you're like, maybe we should examine that and see if that's true?
You know what's funny? I more often see it in the opposite direction.
Mm,
That people underreport what they're good at.
okay.
A lot of times when people are coming to me, they're coming because they're very discouraged. They've experienced a lot of rejection. They're full of self-doubt. If you want to throw on a diagnosis like depression, there's a lot of negative self-talk.
Okay.
And so I actually get more underestimating of skill, or
Okay.
the sort of belief that just because I know how to do that doesn't mean anybody's going to hire me to do that.
Right. I mean, before we move into that a little bit deeper, because I have a bunch of questions about that for sure. I'm going to lay it out on the table in the interest of honesty here and say that I am not a counseling guy. Okay. I'm not a therapy guy. And it's only because in my brain, I always say, tell me what the F to do here. And that's not really what therapists do. Right. So
Yep.
I've never really been a big believer in it. I've done it before. I've done family stuff. I've done, couples therapy and stuff like that. And I'm always waiting for someone to say, you know what, JR, you're right. She really did. She screwed that one up big time. That said, give me the one line difference between a career counselor and a life counselor or life coach, because I think a lot of people might think they're the same thing, and maybe they are. I mean, you can tell me. I stumped her.
That's a big question.
I stumped her, everyone.
Actually, what you're hearing is I'm having like there's like 5 different things I want to say. All at
Sure,
the
that's
same
what
time.
everyone
So
says.
I'm trying to pull them
Yeah.
apart. So I would say a life coach, number one, it's a level of training. So I'd want to understand how that person is trained.
Okay.
Second is what is your goal as the consumer?
Okay.
And I use that language as a former business person.
Mhm.
It's not a word therapists generally use. But if you are buying therapy,
Yeah.
it is on you to define the goal. And a life coach, in my estimation, is you might be bringing a number of things. Like I'm thinking about leaving my marriage, and I want to change my job, and that person might be helping you determine what your goals are, or in what order to take the problems you want to solve, or whatever
Sure.
it is. A career counselor, with a caveat, when someone hires me, my goal is to help them achieve their stated career goal.
Okay.
And I am always mindful of that. And I am not in the business of wasting their time running down side corollaries that might be fascinating, but are not what they've hired me to do.
Okay.
That said, the caveat is, and one reason I chose the specialization and one reason I went back and got a full master's in it, is that I think career counseling is individual counseling.
Okay.
I think we can't draw a line. Your work experience absolutely influences how you show up at home with your family,
Mhm.
how you feel about yourself every day. Like it's not a weird compartmentalized, like there's your job over here and the rest of your life over here. Everything is codependent. Everything is multifactorial. But the therapy goal is to get you where you want to go as quickly as possible.
Is that both ways? Meaning, if I go to a life coach, it makes a lot of sense to me that a career counselor would also dip into what's going on with the rest of someone's life. Is it the other way around too? If I go to a life coach, I mean, typically they're not telling me anything necessarily about helping my career, goals normally, or I mean, don't have a ton of experience with it, but I'm going to guess that would be very ancillary for them.
I mean, I don't really know because I'm not a life coach and it's not a path I went down and I've never worked with one. But my sense of them is, again, it's a much broader. I would imagine a life coach might be a really good fit for someone who is trying to accomplish multiple goals at the same time, is trying to figure out how to sort and prioritize those goals. Maybe there's no mental health issue in the picture. It really is just a matter of overwhelm and how do I sort all of
Gotcha.
this? And job might be a piece of that.
So it's kind of a broad picture versus something that's very focused, is what you're kind of saying. Yes?
That's what I'm saying in terms of what the therapeutic goal is.
Okay.
I think where there might be some overlap is that from here's a big word for you, you might hit the buzzer, Theoretical orientation.
Explain!
Okay. When someone goes and gets a master's in professional counseling, one of the things they're exploring is what is your core belief as a practitioner?
Okay.
So here's a really simple line of demarcation. Some counselors, and then if you went another level up to like PhD clinical psychologists, for instance, some might lean toward a much more what's called a psychoanalytic approach. This is Freud, this is Jung, this is like we have deep reasons why everything is very insight
Gotcha.
driven.
Yeah.
And therapy might go really deep. And I think for people who are looking for more directive brands of therapy, when they wind up with working with that kind of therapist, they're often dissatisfied because what they feel like is every week I'm just getting more like why.
Yeah.
And that can be really frustrating. There's another branch that's more like 1970s. This is like cognitive behavioral therapy or dialectic behavior therapy, if you've ever heard of any of those. Those
Me?
are
Of course
behavioral
not. Of course I
therapies.
have not, but go ahead.
Okay. So I think of it as like there's insight on the one hand and there's action on the other. Insight's really important if someone is, for instance, deeply traumatized. We want to get to the root of like what happened and why, and getting grounded in that before you decide to do anything might be incredibly important. So I'm not trying to throw that kind of therapy under the bus. It's not one size fits all, right?
Okay. Got it.
Then there's the behavioral end, which is I'm trying to change something or change something in my life or change my behavior. And then behavioral therapies are much more, this is like the feeding the pellet to the guinea pig, like
Sure.
what's going to get that guinea pig to do something
Right.
different.
Yeah.
And career counseling to me falls in the second bucket. So when I went through my master's program, I was thinking much more about motivational change, skills that help people make decisions quickly. How do we get just enough insight to know that we're making good choices, but we're not going to spend a lot of time in my practice going backwards. We're going to get just enough insight about you to be able to make going forward decisions.
Mm-hmm.
But when I talk about theoretical orientation, a big one is just, am I more insight driven? Am I more action driven? And then what are some of my core beliefs around that?
Yeah.
So here's another bit of psychobabble for
Go.
you. There's a guy named Adler. There's a whole school of psychology called Adlerian psychology.
Ooh.
He practiced in Vienna around the same time as Freud.
Mhm.
Freud's idea is basically that everything's biologically driven. My feeling about Freud is that it's sort of inherently negative, like we're all just sort of powerless to our internal motivations kind of thing.
Sure.
And Adler trained with Freud, but he took a left-hand turn and said, you know what? I actually think most people are striving to be better people.
Oh.
And they can do it. They want to do it. Let's believe in people's power to improve their lives. And he thought that there were 5 important tasks in anyone's life, and one of those was work.
Mm-hmm.
So when I went through grad school, I sort of fell in love with Adler and I fell in love with behavioral psychology. And the idea was, how can I believe that most people are striving for self-improvement? And then what tools do I need to help them make the improvement in this domain that they want to make?
I mean, that's beautiful. It's a very optimistic point of view for sure. I am, whether this is Freudian or what is it? Adlerian? What is it?
Yeah, Adlerian.
Wow,
yeah.
look at me.
Look at you. You've learned. Congratulations.
I'm one of those people that look at folks and say, you're perfectly comfortable with who you are, whether it's good or bad. And how you judge good or bad is, it's up for debate. But I'm saying that's a very optimistic view of how people are striving for better, that people want to be better. All my experience in contact with human beings is that, no, they're okay being a jerk, or they're okay being, I'm not going to say lazy, but they're okay where they are, and they're just riding things out. So, I mean, I guess the question is, if it's somebody like me, is there a way to convert me to believe that more optimistic side of things?
Well, I'm going to pick something apart there.
Go.
I'm not looking to change someone's personality.
Okay.
And no one is coming through my door who hasn't decided that they want to make a change.
Okay. That's good. I like that.
So they're already trying, right? They've hired a career counselor because they're motivated at some level to make a change. And part of the reason I start with a personality inventory is I do want to understand their framework and their orientation on the world so that I can work with it,
Yeah.
not change it.
Yeah.
But it tells me a lot if someone's inherently pessimistic, if they want to make a change, but they just don't think it's possible. It is not my job to argue with that or change that. It's my job to work them through a process that I hope will prove differently to them. That's about doing. It's not about believing.
I mean, I have to assume, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I often am, but I have to assume that some people are coming through your door or any counselor's door not really knowing, confused. I know something's not right, but I don't know what it is. And I mean, that's different from taking the standpoint of I'm walking in ready to make a change. It is I'm walking in. Okay, I'm going to back up and say, when you go to therapy, you've got to be accepting to therapy as a whole, right? I mean, in terms of what I want to get out of this and so on. If you're not ready for therapy, going to therapy is a waste of time.
100%.
In the same way that I'm not a religious person, in the same way I say, if you get something out of it, go to church. I don't. I go there and I wait for what time is it? Okay, it's almost finished. So that's the way a lot of people view therapy, which means they're not ready to be in therapy. And they might not know what exactly they're looking for when they go there. I got to assume that you see some of that. I know that you're sort of bringing it down to the upper 50% that are coming in and saying, I'm ready to go. But there's got to be those people that come in and go, geez, I'm just confused. I don't know what's happening. My career is stalling or whatever it is. Are you getting that kind of clientele as well?
Yeah, sometimes. And so generally, no, majority, no, but in part because they've already chosen the goal. So unlike sort of a general mental health therapist who you're going to with maybe a foggy problem and part of the issue is to figure out what's wrong, the stated goal when someone calls me is, I want greater career satisfaction.
Okay.
That's the goal. That's the stated goal. Now, what you're talking about, though, is how much volition does that person really have?
Right.
And so I did have early on in my career, I found that I wasn't screening that very well. So what does that look like? I might have had a young adult in my practice who was really pushed by their parents.
Okay.
That means the parents wanted the change. The kid might not have wanted the change at all, or might not have been ready, right? And I've learned to screen for that and recommend a different path if that's what I'm seeing. It's a waste of everybody's time and money if that person really isn't ready to dig in and do the work.
Yes.
There can also be some false reporting. You're right. There can be people who sort of wish for a change, but when push comes to shove, they're really not ready to make it.
Yeah, I'm comfortable where I am. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that I have with any kind of therapy is I always think of therapy as a sitcom. A good sitcom is the main character is sane and everyone around them is crazy. So when you're talking about something that's group therapy or family therapy or whatever it is, it's always me looking and saying, like, you're all asking me to change. I'm fine. You're the ones that are all crazy. And that's this is going to transition to us to that group thing that I talked about in my intro that sort of prompted this whole thing. But we're simpatico on this because I think that if you're not ready and you're looking at the world like, I'm good, I just want the rest of the world to change around me, I think you're not going to get a whole lot out of it, in my opinion.
No, that's right. And, one of the best things my supervisor ever said to me was, watch out. If you're doing more work for your client than they are doing for themselves, something is wrong.
Good way to put it, yeah.
And what I've learned to do in my practice is when I see that happening, I call a timeout on the field. And I basically talk to my client and say, you hired me for a reason. I feel like we're drifting from the goal.
Yeah. What's
going on here? I've also learned to put in my intake, I have a bunch of Likert scales. Do you know what those are?
No. Of course I don't.
So,
that's a silly question.
Okay. Well, you've answered a million of them in your life. You just might not know what they're called. Okay. It's like a 1 to 10 scale. So how motivated are you? 1 is low, 10 is high.
Gotcha.
I have a couple of screening questions that are designed to get at level of motivation. They are also specific to different points in the process. How much do you like doing research? How comfortable are you in a job interview?
Gotcha.
How confident do you feel about your resume writing? Because the other thing I found is someone might be really great and highly motivated around certain parts of the process. And then I use a lot of driving language since I'm good to go. We hit a speed bump.
Okay.
And the speed bump might be some part of the process that is uniquely more challenging to that client than other parts of the process.
Understood. Okay, I gotcha. So you might get mad at me for saying it, but I'm saying that a lot of these things, like my friend who joined this group thing, I don't even know what to call it, some kind of a group counseling coaching sessions, and paid a big fat amount of money. I felt from the very beginning, I had that gut feeling like this just feels like a scam to me. And the reason that I say the word scam, it's a big word in this, and I apply it to a lot of people that I see on LinkedIn that suddenly become career coaches or career counselors without any training whatsoever.
Yep.
is that you're fleecing people who are already in a bad way. Normally, if I'm
Yes.
going to join this kind of a group, it's because, geez, my job search has stalled. My career is not going where I want to. Almost everyone that was in the group with this person was unemployed. It's not like they were employed looking to make a change. They were all unemployed looking for a job. And I don't think that the person that was running this thing was adequately telling them, that's not what we do here. We don't find you jobs. We prepare you for when the opportunities come, or we open your mind to new ways of connecting or whatever it is. I would call that a scam, in my opinion. And ultimately, the place, as I mentioned, closed down. And if you looked at the guy's credentials, he didn't really have any. He was just an entrepreneur who started this group. So it's sort of a warning shot to people out there that maybe you need to investigate this kind of stuff a little bit more before you jump in and throw your hard-earned money
Yes.
at this kind of thing. Your opinion, madam.
I totally agree.
Yay!
I'm going to zoom out and come at this from a different perspective and then give some very specific feedback to people who might be looking for resources.
Please.
So what you're saying is a conversation I have a lot, so much that I have a little sheet I typed up that I email to people when I ask,
Here
which
it
is
is.
how do I find a good therapist, period. And too often people are like, my brother's cousin's dog loved this person, so I'm going to call them.
All right. Yeah.
With the added kicker of how would someone who's not in the therapy world understand LPC versus LCSW versus PhD versus blah, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, right?
A lot of letters and numbers, yeah.
Let alone theoretical orientation. Is this person going to why me for the next 2 years? Or is this person going to be pushing for action? How do they practice?
Yeah.
Right? And so the advice I always give is slow this down. Do a little research. One of the actual best databases for finding any therapist is actually Psychology Today. They run a national database. Most practitioners are in it. You can look at people's level of credentialing, their experience, their area of specialization, whether they're on your insurance panel, what state they're in, all the things.
Yeah.
But I tell people ask around, ask your friends, look at a database, come up with a list of 10. Research them, narrow to 5, call 3.
Yeah.
Any good therapist of any kind is willing to give some kind of a short free intake where they answer some of your questions. You get a sense of rapport, if you like them, if they're speaking your language. But most people are happy to just take a referral, make a phone call, make an appointment, and show up.
Yeah.
And then you are running the danger of investing time, energy, emotional resources into someone that really might not do what you need them to do.
So
and
I'm gonna
shopping hard.
I'm going to challenge you just a little bit there, because when you're talking about people, especially the people that were in this group, and this is very specific, obviously, but you're talking about people who are desperate. They're getting
Yep.
desperate. They need a job. The
Yep.
job market's bad, and maybe if I join this group. So it seems to me like what you're saying is absolutely the process you should go through. These people are in a hurry. Time, the clock's ticking. I need a gig within the next 3 months. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way. Nobody in this group ended up landing a job or having a better opportunity at jobs than they did before. And we'll get into a little bit about the practicality of network versus resume and how important those things are. But the network of people that were in there were all unemployed. And so all they were
Yep.
really doing is commiserating with each other about how
Yes.
shitty things were. So they weren't really expanding their network other than the very prescriptive, go on LinkedIn, join, connect with 10 people a day. Okay, have you ever tried to do that? It's nonsense. You're basically just poking people and saying please, can we be connected? My friend had to be on the phone. Her extracurricular stuff was, having actual phone calls with all these people in the group throughout the week. At one point, I was there and listening, and I was like, okay, all you're doing is bitching about how horrible things are. You're not helping each other in any way except for
Right.
giving a shoulder to
Right.
lean on. So I understand what you're saying about searching for and taking the time and whatever else, but you've got to at least admit that there's a time and place where people are like, I gotta do something right this second.
Sure, but then I would say at $3,000 upfront,
Yeah.
for easy math, let's divide that by an hourly rate for a therapist that I'm just going to pull out of the sky. Let's call it $150 an hour.
Okay.
That's 20 hours of somebody's time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You could invest 20 hours in a qualified career counselor. And if you want to pick somebody fast, get on the NCDA database and find someone with very clear, unassailable credentials in this space and go that way instead.
Okay.
You can do it fast and still make a better choice. I'd also say there are groups, and when I work with out-of-state clients, these are so variable by state. It can be tough, but here in Austin, there are two 501c3s, free job clubs. One is called PurposeWorks.
Okay.
The other is called Launchpad Job Club. They are excellent.
Okay.
They are immediate. You can join those groups on a Monday or a Friday. Any week of the year, you pay nothing. And the resources are pretty extraordinary. So I would encourage people to look for not-for-profits or even state-run clubs and
Okay.
organizations that might offer the same
Great
services.
tip. So you're saying that not all of these group things are nonsense. And I'm using the word nonsense and scam. Really, I am. And especially when I'm saying that I'm going to, as I mentioned, looking on LinkedIn, I'm like, yesterday you were in HR. Today you're a career coach. No,
Yep.
no, you're not. What is qualifying you for that? Although you did say the difference between a coach and a counselor is the training.
I did.
So I guess they're not lying when they're saying they're a career coach, but they don't have any qualification to do that. It seems to me like a lot of times this guy was an entrepreneur. That's a separate thing altogether. He was just trying to make a buck, and he did. But I'm saying that your career is only 5 years long. What qualifies you to be a career coach? Not even a counselor, a career coach. And it's impossible for most people to grasp that, like, just because someone says they are a career coach doesn't mean that they are good at it. It just means that they've called themselves one.
No matter how you're looking or what you're considering, to me boils down to three things. What are the qualifications?
Mhm.
What is the process they follow? And if they can't be very transparent about that in a way that you can understand, you probably don't want to work with them.
Yeah.
And what are the results? This is what you're looking for every time. And if there's any fogginess on your part, if this sounds like gobbledygook and they cannot tell you, don't work with them.
Well, and I would add, if they make you any promises.
Yes.
Because a lot of these folks, if you really dig into what their newly updated LinkedIn profile says, is almost saying, without saying it, I guarantee I'm going to find you a better gig.
Yep.
Or I guarantee I'm going to make your salary go up. No, that's not possible.
Yeah, and we haven't hit that question on the head, and it keeps coming up. So let's kind of shift to it. There's
Hit
like,
me.
do we promise people jobs?
Yes.
And I don't think any responsible career coach, career counselor, no matter what you call them, could possibly promise you that.
Okay.
For one really important reason, what I promise my client is I know best practices in this space. I can guide you through them. I can help demystify a job search. I can help empower you. I can help us move a little faster. I can support you through what can feel onerous and overwhelming.
Mhm.
I don't control the job market. I am not on the hiring side.
Right.
I can't guarantee any outcome.
Right.
What I can also say, though, is over 6 years of practice, I've been wanting to I should throw all this into ChatGPT and have it do the math for me.
Mhm.
My batting average is super high.
Okay.
I have a tiny failure rate. And it's to be clear, it's not because I think I'm all that in a bag of chips. It's because
I do.
a clear process works.
Yeah.
And a good career counselor has a process that they have run enough times with enough people that they know it works.
Yeah, that's great.
And you're putting people through that same process every time. And so, no, I can't guarantee outcome. I can guarantee greater efficiency. I can guarantee support. I can guarantee that I will use best practices in my work with you, and that I'm optimistic that you can achieve a result in a reasonable amount of
I
time.
love that line of
But
thinking.
I can't promise any of that.
Yeah.
Of course I can't. And you shouldn't believe me if I do.
Right. So in general, what the message we're putting out there is, if anybody is promising those things, they're full of shit.
Yeah, unless they're in a position to actually hire you and give you a job.
Right.
They cannot make a promise.
Amen. Well, this has been amazing so far.
Yeah.
But I think this is a good spot to take a break because we've been kibitzing for almost an hour already, and I've had 5 cups of coffee this morning, so I think you get where I'm going. Are you cool to stick around for a part 2?
Yeah, totally.
Great. I look forward to it.
You got it.
Thanks a bunch. That does it for this time. Appreciate you listening. Thanks so much to my very special guest, Julie Willis, for helping us decipher this, and thank you for sticking around for a part 2. I'm excited to hear more of your insights on the topic. A reminder to click the follow button and drop us a review if you like what you're hearing. It helps us out a lot. You can also contact us at our email, hello@roughtumblemedia.com. That's hello@rufftumblemedia.com. Join me again for part 2 and other upcoming episodes of Assume I'm an Idiot. I'm your pal JR. Catch you again soon.